What is up, everybody? How's it going? Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Today, in this video, I will be discussing my thoughts and opinions on God of War Ragnarok and give my final review of the game. So, if you guys have not played God of War Ragnarok and do not want anything spoiled or discussed in or about the game, please click off this video. This is not a non spoiler video, and I will be heavily discussing spoilers and discussing things about the game. So, this is your time to click off now. So I started the game around November 9th. I got it late November 9th, November 10th, and I went into this game completely spoiler free. I did not watch any gameplay. I avoided all pictures. I avoided everything about the game that could spoil it for me. So let's first start off with the beginning of the story. When I booted up the game, I realized that Atreus' voice is much deeper, and I did not realize he grew up. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. I did not realize he actually became much older and a teenager, and I thought he was going to stay a kid instead of actually growing up. So that surprised the heck out of me when I first booted up the game. And so it brought you through the whole snow fight where between Freya and Kratos and Atreus, and I love that they just picked things right back up where they left off, where Baldur died in the 2018 version, and Freya is still sad about it and just never forgave Kratos. I knew that was coming at the end of the God of War 2018. I just didn't know when in the game, but they picked it right off with a battle right in the start of the game, and it just blew me away because I was like, no way, this is so cool. So as the story progresses, you would know that Atreus turns into an animal and has the ability to get that ultimate. I thought that was a really cool move, and we'll talk about Atreus' combat much later. But for now, I love that he can do that. And then going off that later, we continue more with the story, and then you wake up just like the dream in God of War 2018, where Thor shows up. And then, but in 2018, it just cuts out. But this one, it just kept on going. And I was like, no way. This scene is actually happening. I can't believe it. So he shows up at the house. They sit together, have a cool but tense conversation. Then Odin shows up. He knows exactly where Mimir is. And I was like, yeah, he's not really hiding. So, and then they have the whole fight. That was really cool. And I wish they added a little bit more something to the fight. You know, when he passes out, I wish they would show something where his soul would probably go to Helheim and then turn back, but I probably think they did it right. But that's my own thing. I'll talk about that more much later. But yeah, that was a really cool fight. The blood debt fight, such a good one, good thing. And then more of the story continues where they do their search for Tyr, and I was blown away of how tall Tyr was, and I was like, no way. He is so big. He actually could be a really good fighter. And so, yeah, I was just blown away by that fact. So I'm just doing bullet points of what I thought about the story and bullet points of my favorite parts and what blew me away. So that's kind of what's happening right here, by the way. And so later on, you go to Vanaheim, you meet Freyr, Freya's brother, and then they go on a whole journey. And then what was surprising about that conversation all the way on to where you free Freya and battle that monster, there was a certain scene where Kratos talked about Deimos. And I was like, no way. This is so cool. I loved how they're paying homage to God of War Ghosts of Sparta, my favorite game. And it's just so well done of how he talked about Deimos and had a brother. And it was so cool just referencing him because I was like, finally, a God of War game that finally mentions Deimos. So I was very happy about that. And there are other conversations in the game that they paid homage to other games. But for me personally, I love the whole Deimos conversation that they had. And then later in the game, Atreus journeys to Asgard, and I love the whole atmosphere there. It's very golden, but it's also on a cliff, so you have the whole overlooking the clouds perspective, and it's just a cool scene right there. And I just think that it brings a lot to the table once you go to Asgard and meet like Thor and Odin, and you meet Thor's sister or daughter. Sorry, Thor's daughter. And I was like, this is so cool. So that was so cool. And then You get much later. I think not much happened in between. They were just preparing for Ragnarok. And then Ragnarok happens, and man, it's a full on fight. And I loved it because it was exactly what I wanted and exactly what I was expecting. Them to gather all the clans together in the fight, all the realms. And I was like, this is so cool. They have Surtur, they have the snake, they have everyone just so eager to fight and just join together. So that was so cool. Um, and then it was kind of sad to see Brock die. I mean, I liked him, but I like Sindri more. So I'll talk about them in a bit. But I'm sad to see Brock go, and then Sindri join the fight. Just very mean, very rageful. So it was kind of interesting to see that. And then we had the fight. Odin dies, Thor dies, and then after that, it became they went back to Midgard to recover, and then something interesting happened that I did not pick up on all. Atreus leaves, and I did not. I saw this coming, but didn't at the same time because at the story they were like, "Hey, lad, do you want to go on any extra adventures with Atreus?" And then I was like, "Okay, you just mean before the final fight, right?" But no, he's gone for good. So you just join up for Freya post game, and I'll be discussing that with a bit. And um, so that happens. Atreus leaves, and he goes on his own adventure. That's cool. It just sets up a next game. But in terms of like him being a sidekick, he's gone. So, and then Brock and Sindri, yeah, Brock died, and so Sindri just gets all hateful, and so he's just sad throughout the rest of the game and hates everyone. Um, I feel, and it's very hard to lose someone. I get that, and it's hard. But I wish we got to see a little bit more of him. You got to see him at Brock's funeral, but he doesn't really show much later post game. So, I mean, we'll probably see him in the next game. Who knows? So that's kind of like my thoughts on the story. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of good plot points, a lot of good homages, and just a lot going on. So that was the story for me. Let's get into both post game. Now, post game, there's a lot of exploration that I could do. I loved how there's so big it was. You go to all the realms. I loved how they just expanded it upon the 2018 version, how they had certain realms locked, but now you can visit pretty much all of them. And there's so much to do, especially, let's say, Vanaheim, because you had like the main portion down here, and then you had the big crater up north, and then you had a very southern portion here. And I was like, this is crazy how big it is. Sorry, something distracted me. But anyways, yeah, you got to the big crater up north, and then you have so much to explore. Because the thing about this game that's shocked me is that when I think I found everything, I really didn't. There's so much to explore otherwise, and just so much to journey and fight. And I was just blown away of how big it was. So it took me some time. And right now, at the point, I'll discuss this at the end of the video, is that I'm at the almost a platinum. So I pretty much put the time into the game and just really enjoyed it. And so I'll talk more about the exploration a little bit later. But now let's move on to the design of the game and like the artwork and everything like that. So I loved Vanaheim. I loved how beautiful it was, especially when you got to like the wolves and you got to see the mountains and you got to see how beautiful it was in terms of like the river and the landscape and the trees. It was beautiful as well. And then the one place I really loved that just blew me away was Sindri's house. I loved how beautiful and colorful it was. The contrast between the gold and the blue and just all the colors there. It just blew me away at the design they put into the house, because that was a huge staple and a huge fundamental part of the game, just going back to the house every time. I love the design they put into it, and I just think is truly spectacular going back there. The next place I loved was the Muspelheim lava and all the design pieces around there. I loved how they made the lava much more interactive and that you can actually jump over it and more of just see more detail of it. You got some detail in 2018's version, don't get me wrong, it was beautiful, but in this game it's much more beautiful than 2018's version. So I just loved it. Absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad they put Muspelheim's lava in more of a beautiful and glowing light. And then lastly, I want to talk about the Frozen Lake of Nine. I loved how everything is just frozen and how it's just um, beautiful, just everything frozen over. It's just a perfect monument of what the game is, and how before you just saw the full lake and you got to row it, but now you just get to walk over it. And I just love the whole idea of it. Again, I went into it as much spoiler free as I can. I know it was on the box art and everything like that, but I wanted not to get spoiled at. But oh well. So those are like the four set pieces I loved. And then lastly, sorry, I forgot to add, is that I loved the Jotunheim environment as well. I love the trees, the golden trees, the golden atmosphere of it, how green and gold can mix, and I just love the whole atmosphere there. Jotunheim is definitely my favorite realm, and just to explore there because there's so much beauty in all those shots there. And so that's kind of the design of the game and what I loved about it. And so next, let's go on to combat. Now, personally, I loved Atreus' combat and fighting style in this one more than anything. I loved it more than Kratos's, and it is such a beautiful and vengeful way to fight because he is so rageful. I love how he can just do a Spartan kick and or fight with his bow, and I love the contrast they did with how well he fights, and I was like, this is so cool of Atreus. Because every time it got to a fight scene and with him where you got to play him, I'm like, I don't. People are like, oh, I hate playing against him, but I'm like, bring it on. I love this. Let's fight. I want to use arrows. I want to use everything. So I was super happy that I got to fight with him. And just very happy overall because I loved his combat. I loved how fast he was, how nimble, and I just loved everything about it. Next thing I want to talk about is I love the spear in the game. This is a new weapon. I loved how cool it is and how rageful it is. Now, if you guys have played God of War Ghost of Sparta, you do play with a spear and do play some of it with a spear, and I love that. And I think that they had many contrasts between each other, and I loved that it just had many different moves that you could throw as many like 5 or 8 spears onto someone, and you can have that exploding feature afterwards. And I just think it's so cool. Now, between the 3 weapons, because you had the axe, you had the blades, and you had the spear. Personally, I love the axe more than anything. I still love that you can recall it, and it's so cool. So that's my favorite weapon to use overall. Then it becomes the spear. I love it just because I can throw spears at and explode people at a distance. I can use some of the relics and some of the special moves to take enemies down. And then the last one I did use was the blades. That was like my last resort. The blades are really cool. Don't get me wrong. I love them in 2018 version, but this one, it's not. I don't use them as much because I loved using the axe more. So that's just personally my opinion. And so those are the 3 weapons you have in the game. Personally, I just like using the axe overall. So that was kind of the combat in the game. I love Kratos' combat, but I like Atreus' more, like I said. Once I get New Game Plus and Photo Mode, which I'll talk about later, I will be definitely enjoy playing Atreus more and just love everything about it. So, some of the things that annoyed me in the game is that the post-game exploration is kind of long and tedious because they didn't really do a good job setting portals kind of correctly because you had, especially in Vanaheim, you had like a lower section and you had one here, and one here, but you had like many circular ins and outs, and it was kind of because you had like row and like to get to like this spot, for example, you had to go to the one down here and then row and walk all the way up here. and then you have to go all the way back because there's no portal up here anywhere. So I was like, it's just taking me forever just to walk back to where I need to be. Because I'm doing all the ravens and trying to find all the collectibles and stuff like that for platinum, but I was like, this is taking way too long just running and trying to get back to where I was. So it's all right. It just took way too long. I wish they added more portals or added like a fast travel system just so you don't have to travel all that way and running all the way. But I mean, I should have picked up other in the story. No big deal. And the other one that really annoyed me, but also I kind of understand, is that if you guys have played the 2018 version, you would know that Atreus gets sick, and when Kratos takes him to get better, someone blew the horn at the Lake of Nine, but we don't know who it was. It could be Kratos. It could be Balder. It could be anyone from Asgard, and we just don't know. So I was kind of confused, and I thought they were going to answer in this game, but they really didn't. They never showed a clear answer, so I guess we're waiting on the next game for that. So I was kind of expecting that in God of War Ragnarok, but I was like, yeah, I don't know exactly who. So those are the kind of things that annoyed me because they didn't fully answer it, and also the exploration was long and tedious. So that's the only things that annoyed me in the game. Everything else was fine. And so let's talk about which God of War game was best after playing God of War Ragnarok. Now, do I think God of War Ragnarok is the best game? No, I do not. I think it's a really good game and fantastic game, and I loved it, but it's not my favorite. God of War Ghost of Sparta is my favorite role personally. I just love the whole fighting atmosphere in there. I love Demos. I loved everything about that game. And that's personally my favorite God of War game. Now, others might disagree, but that's my favorite. And then the 2018 version is my favorite God of War game just because of how much they brought to the table, and I'll explain why. If you guys have played God of War 2018, you would know that you get the Blades of Chaos later in the game. It's crazy because when they did a reveal for God of War 2018, they never revealed the Blades of Chaos or that you would ever find them or have them. They just thought you would, have the axe the whole time. But no, you get to have the blades, and it was such a shocker, and it blew everyone away. The surprises in 2018 were just spectacular, more than Ragnarok because of how much it offered in terms of what we didn't see, because it was a totally different combat style, new enemies, and we're like blown away. So, for example, when Balder showed up at Kratos' door at the beginning of the game, we didn't know he was going to punch him over the house. Everyone was super shocked by that. They were like, no way, this guy is super powerful. I want to play as this guy. And so it was crazy because it just showed that God of War still has a lot to offer and a lot of surprises. I loved the atmosphere in 2018 as well. Once you got to the mountain, I loved the view of it. I loved Jotunheim and how beautiful it was at the end. So I think God of War 2018 is definitely better, or is better than God of War Ragnarok, just because it had more to offer. If I was going to rate them side by side, let's say out of 5, I would probably rate God of War Ragnarok at a 4.6, while the 2018 version has a 4.7. So they're very, very closely good and matched. I just think that 2018 is better. That's just me, okay? So what's next for me in this game? Like I said, I just have one more trophy just to activate, and it'll activate the platinum just like that. I want to activate it at the right time. Right now, I'm going to be waiting for New Game Plus and Photo Mode, because if you guys don't know what New Game Plus is by now, it's basically where you get to restart with all your abilities and XP and everything and just start a new journey like that. So it'll just be easier and fun for me. I played this game on easy mode my first time around, so not the balanced story mode, but more of like the easy one above that. So I just like to have it not combative, but just where I get to explore the story at the same time. I love the combat, but I just like the experience environments more and the story just all together. So that's what I'm waiting for right now. I will play it. I have a good armor set, and I pretty much explored everything in the game. I haven't 100% completed it because there were some side quests and more chests and lore I still have to explore. But for now, I'm in a good spot. I think I'm like 80-90% all the way on all the realms. So it's really good. Overall, I think God of War Ragnarok is such a fantastic game. They did a really good job in the environments, the gameplay, the combat, everything about it. They made Atreus' combat amazing. So overall, I would, like I said, out of 5, I would probably give it like 4.8. There are some things I didn't like, but overall, it's such a fantastic game. If you guys have not played God of War 2018, you guys need to play it, then play this one, because there's a lot of spoilers they have in Ragnarok that you don't know. It's like, wait, who's Baldur? Who is all this and that? And you'll be like so confused if you guys never played the 2018 version. So I would recommend playing that first. It's like $10 right now, and it's free for PlayStation Plus users on PS5. So, I mean, it's a perfect game to play. Absolutely amazing. Right now, I'm sitting about 41 hours to platinum. People have around 60 to platinum. But for me, like I said, the story took me 20 hours, 47 minutes to complete the game, and then took me about 21 hours on top of that to platinum. So, yeah. So it was a tremendous game right here. I loved it all the way through. And that's kind of like my view of the game and my thoughts and opinions on it. There's so much to talk about just because there's so many good spoilers, so many good things that came up the game that shocked me, and I loved it all the way through. So if you guys haven't played it, I would definitely suggest you play it in the future. Right now it's on PlayStation 5, but maybe in 2-3 years down the line, yeah, they'll add it. But yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts and opinions in the game. Hopefully you guys are doing well and just staying safe overall and just having fun with lots of love and respect. I'll see you guys next time, and peace out. Bye.